All right, what's up? It's your girl Camille Loren, and today I'm here with an amazing musician, artist, teacher, and mentor, Dante Pope.
It's good to be here with you, man. Thank you for having me. I'm very proud of you and looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. I'm very proud of you too. So let's get it started. Where are you from, and what got you started in music?
I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I started playing music, according to my grandmother, like around 6 months. Either I would slap people in the back of the head at church, or I would slap in the back of a pew. So she took it upon herself at 6 months of my age, and just always kept either chopsticks or something percussive for me to use. So by the time I was 3, I started playing in church, and that was my start. I started off just playing the drums, but I noticed everything that drove the service was melodic. And so I was like, man, I need to learn some piano. And so I started playing the organ first because it's just so cool with all the buttons on there. But yeah, my start was there. And at about 9 years old is when I started reading. I started going to a conservatory called the Merritt School of Music downtown Chicago. And I tested in and was able to get they have like this tuition-free conservatory that they do for like inner city kids. And it was cool. Like every Saturday, I would go down there from 12 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. every Saturday from 5th grade through 12th grade. Yeah, and I would say from those 3 guys, like my percussive teachers that really had that impact, when I finally heard jazz, like I spent my whole life in the church, but when I heard jazz, I heard nuances of and saw nuances when I saw guys play. It's like, oh, that independence right there, like you gotta be playing like you have to be used to odd meter things, and you have to have a mind and muscle memory that can just lock into that. You know, there was a brother, Bill Stewart, who still, man, it was around, amazing drummer. Check out Bill Stewart if you don't know him. But I got a chance to see him live, and he subdivides so immediately, but effortlessly, and it still grooves.
That's awesome. So what would you say is your favorite genre just to listen to, and then what's your favorite genre to play?
Man, just listening, I guess, by looking at me, I look like a 70s guy. I love soul. I love the warmth of like vinyl records, number one. So I'm a record player. I have, a bunch of Count Basie records. I'm a fan of Sonny Stitt. He's a great saxophonist. He spent a little bit of time in Chicago. So like I was introduced to him through my granddad, Charlie Parker, Miles, of course. But then outside of those guys, and of course some new jazz musicians, a lot of what I listen to is like 1968 to like 1975 soul.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
like the Temptations, the Dells, the Delphonics, but nicely arranged stuff. Isaac Hayes, a lot of that music has cool string arrangements, but it's so big. And while it seems very simple, the progressions aren't that easy to necessarily just calculate. So that's kind of typically what I listen to.
Yeah, that's a good decade, or not decade, but that was a good time for music for sure.
Era, yeah,
and yeah, I love soul and stuff like that. You're like big into education. Do you believe that your education has helped you with your music career, or just in general as a person?
Yeah. I mean, even though I feel like I suck, you know what I mean? Just compared to people that I'm inspired by, I think education, what it's helped me do is learn how to consistently step up and be confident, even in my mess ups. When you're getting education, you're going to fumble through some things sometimes. Like it kind of goes beyond the music. It's just a part of your lifestyle, in my opinion. As we grow, we get older, we kind of transition into different things over the span of your life. And I don't feel like every transition has to mean you have to become something new. So I think it's important for all of us to find like a nucleus of like, this is really who I am, and I'm gonna carry this throughout my life. And I would say in my music education, I've just learned the power in that and the necessity of that. That's helped me. The education has helped me be open to the different experiences I'm in. Given I'm playing. Like right now, a lot of what I do is soul music, hip hop, or somewhat production. So while it helps, I think the experience more so now is what helps because, you're getting the gigs. I'm a little older now, so name recognition helps just given I've been doing it for a while. But then once you arrive, it's people skills because you just never know. Yeah. It's like you could be the baddest drummer or guitarist in the world, but it's like if you don't know how to read the room when you get into the room for the gig, like that's how you lose it. Just basic stuff. Like if people seem frazzled, like how do you handle that? Like, are you going to let that impact you? Or are you going to just be there to be a professional and help out? Maybe check on them, but maybe you should also be like paying attention to your chart.
Yeah.
Before the recording starts in 20 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of it has been the on the job education. Because, even when we're educated in the classroom on things that we may think are easy, like once it's time to apply it, it gets weird when that pressure's on. So I definitely encourage, anybody that's in this profession and field beyond being in school, be on a scene. You don't have to be the face of it to just be active. Go to jam sessions, intentionally go to concerts. It doesn't have to be all of them. Try to network with people while you're there. Try to find the musicians in the room. Yeah.
Yeah, I've like starting at Berkeley, I've realized like I guess your education is kind of like the base, and then from there you can like branch out.
For sure.
Yeah, so
And I'll also say where you go in some cases helps. Like the name recognition of this school is going to bode well for you. It'll make people just, oh, that's great. They'll just listen, just because they know it's quality. You know what I mean? So keep it going.
For my next question, I wanted to ask you about being on the Grammy board. How was the process to like get there, and how does it feel to have made it?
Yeah. I say it feels good, to be honest. I'm from an area called North Lawndale on the west side of Chicago. Life expectancy for at least my generation was not that good if you're a Black male. And I've gone through a lot in my life to amass the focus to like get to certain things. And I appreciate that I've been able to be the honest person I learned to be in that neighborhood and be placed in a position to be on this board. I would say I had to learn certain things. So the Grammys are larger than a show. It's an organization.
Yeah.
So understanding that, being on the board has helped me see the nuances of what's possible if you have good name recognition and some structure, although there may be some controversy in certain areas. Out of the 12 chapters that exist within the Grammys, the DC chapter, DC, Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia included, every chapter has a chapter board and committees. And so the way I was able to get in was that I had enough credits in order to apply that were of quality for whoever chose to, allow me to get into membership. So as a drummer, I'm credited on over about 24, 25 projects, notated as the drummer. Also, I didn't apply until after I was actually nominated. I was on an album called the Black Cowboys album with the Grammy Award-winning guitarist, songwriter named Don Flemings. It was in the country music category. He's a Black country folk music artist. So 2019 is when I applied and was able to get in. And really, as a voting member, which is what many people are, you get in, you're a voting member. That means you can actually vote for the Grammys. That's your main responsibility. When you're able to get on a board or a committee, now you can do some work for the music community. So as a person that's gone through substance abuse issues and just my own mental issues, being able to know that an organization like this has the money to do, Music Cares, which provides literal free like insurance and mental health services to musicians nationwide. Like that's the kind of work I like doing. I'm currently like vice chair of the education committee for the DC chapter, and I teach pre-K through 8. So through that part of the organization, I'm able to actually impact the community I live in, return to some schools that I've worked at, and provide them with some exposure. Because for some people, some of these kids aren't getting any music programs just based on budget. So having the opportunity to use, I would say, my impact or influence with the organization to do that is what's been very fun to me. In order to get a board position, you have to run for it. And so I was voted in by my peers for the position, which I appreciate. And it's been a cool time, man. Vice president for the DC Grammy chapter now. And it's we really just started, the year. Round 1 of the next Grammy award show just ended for voting. So,
Are there any spoilers you could give us?
No, man. No, I mean, that's a big process.
All right.
I'll say just, everybody that's applying got some good music out there. So listen up. Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting. And it's just fun to see how like you've impacted your community and just you're helping other people just get into music and learn just how to be great like you. So that's really good. I want to ask you about your show that you've been running at the Kennedy Center. You told me that you were directing it and you also wrote a lot of the music. Can you talk to us about like that process and how long it's taken and just what it's been like? Yeah,
it's taken 3 years. Finding Rhythm is a musical written by a good friend of mine, Dr. Jessica Phillips Silver. She's a musical neuroscientist. And she's been doing this research for over 20 years, literally quantifying how rhythm and specifically polyrhythms have impact on the brain, specifically children's brains. But she also has worked with Evelyn Glennie, who's like a master percussionist. I had the chance to meet through that conservatory when I was growing up, who happens to be deaf, but I'm saying is a master percussionist. And so I believe she doesn't play with shoes or socks on. She uses the vibration to be able to like feel the music.
Yeah.
But seeing that she was doing this work to kind of quantify how rhythm impacts the brain, And I've always wanted to use music to do everything. Like I was never the best at science, but once I found out how science is interested in music, I became interested in science. But I want to just participate musically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was able to do that with this project, but like learn along the way. So she wrote all the dialogue and monologue for the musical. She wrote the actual lyrics, and she had all her melodies. So she approached me 3 years ago and was like, "Hey, I got this project. I need a producer, arranger." And I'm like, I mean, I've only done that with my work. So yeah, it's kids' music. It should be simple, you know. And it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't. So it was cool. We sat on her porch. She sang everything down for me. Um, she wanted it to be within specifically Afro, like the African diasporic sounds, but focused specifically on go-go, like the African diaspora being the places that the peoples of Africa are.
Yeah.
And so the focus was go-go, which is DC's musical style, which is heavy percussion based. I chose to use like Chuck Brown version of go-go, which is more like the 1970s, 80s presentation of it, from like a more jazz quoting, um, like presence, if you will. So that took some, like, I had to really think about melody structure, and chord progressions, because I'm putting horn parts on top of chord progressions with a lot of percussion going on, bass lines and guitar. It was just stuff that I never had to think that way. So I really appreciated that challenge. It took us 2 years to record the EP, from her giving me the music to me arranging it to then producing it. Then COVID happened in 2020 when we were supposed to initially do the project. So it was deferred. It was just a grant through the city. So we've just been doing smaller versions of the show a bunch of different times. And we were able, through the Kennedy Center, to get an opportunity to put the full musical, supported through a budget, on the Kennedy Center family stage, which we did the last 4 days. So it was cool to go from just producing the project to then now, like, I'm music director for a Kennedy Center show with the whole tech crew and things like that. Like, that was like, my education couldn't help me there.
Yeah.
Because you know what I mean? I've supported musicals, like I did Rent, you know, like earlier this year, and I've been working out of theaters in DC for a while, but I've always been the drummer supporting it. So it's like, you don't rehearse with everybody all the time. It's like you got 4 days, maybe a week of the band rehearsals, and then it's on, you know. So this was different, where like I had to communicate with the guy doing projections on timing, and I'd already made everything, so I had to constantly go back into my DAW, re-editing music, cutting parts, because it's like, okay, that doesn't go with this projection. While it sounds great, this is going to go overtime. It's going to mess up this person's cue line. So it was scary, but we were able to fix it, and the staff was very helpful, and we had a successful, you know, couple of shows these last couple of days. So
that's good to hear. I'm proud of you and your whole crew for just pulling that off. It seems like a lot of work, hard work. So yeah. Is there a defining moment in your life that has impacted your like music, your career, or just you in general?
I would say the year 2014, when I got the opportunity to really start touring nationally. Because before that, I was really like broke. It wasn't even fun, you know, like couch surfing. It was rough, man. You know, it was rough, and so I never lost faith. But it was like, man, you know, I'm intentionally not taking work to be available to work.
Yeah.
You know, I could be at a restaurant right now. I probably should, in hindsight. An older person would have been like, "You should have got a job, son. Messed up your credit." But yeah, it was like that defining moment was when like the doors opened finally. It was just kind of, I don't know what it was. I don't think it was anything I could do, but just the calls started rolling in. Like, you know, such and such said they had enjoyed working with you. This is the project I'm doing. You know, do you think this is something you'd be interested in? And it went from being like every other 2 months to like, now I got a couple of weekly standing gigs where I can build some footing and invite people to come hear me play, meet new people, and be paid. So I would have to say like that's when the faith really jumped up for me to help me in building a career. Like prior to that, I was just a musician. But to be a working musician is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for musicians out there that are just wanting to take that next step in their career?
Yeah, man. 3 things. I say the first, don't limit yourself to solely be married to one style of music. You know, learn as much as you can and work in those areas as much as you can, whether it be through production or actually playing. You know, open yourself up to other possibilities, because that's going to just keep the work flowing. To be honest, you know, you have some variety in income just to play. If you can play in multiple genres, like, I encourage you to do that. The second is figure out some type of financial structure to organize your money in. I did this later in the game, but if you can register as an LLC or get some type of business structure as a tax haven for yourself, because you don't want to get in trouble in that way. And these are real things. I know everybody's probably heard it, but you got to reiterate it. Like, protect your money, protect your craft, and then work with folks who inspire you and challenge you. I think that's a definite thing. And leaning on your education institutions like Berkeley, your classmates and your teachers to help advance what you're doing is going to be key in that. So,
all right, good answer.
Thank you for being here. You're a great interviewer.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Yeah, this has been pretty cool, and much success to everybody. I hope you all have a good one.
Camille Squad out.
Peace.